Welcome to the Rise of the Trades podcast, the show dedicated to helping you to build, grow, and scale your trades or construction business. All rise for your host, Craig Wilkinson.
Welcome to this week's coaching episode of the Rise of the Trades podcast, where we help trades and construction business owners to skyrocket leads, explode net profits without having to graft 60 hours a week and becoming that busy fool. In this episode, I'm going to be teaching you why it's absolutely vital that you are setting preservation goals for yourself and your family, and you do not make the critical mistake that I've made over the years, which is trading my time for money and not understanding and valuing time. Now, before we go there, I'd just like to ask you a favour. If you are getting value from my podcast episodes, could I please ask you to consider hitting the follow or the subscribe button on whatever channel you're listening to this episode on right now? Because by you hitting the follow or subscribe button, number one, you'll get notified whenever I send a new podcast live. But number two, it's then going to send a positive signal to the algorithm to push this episode out to more people. So if you could please hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now, let's transition over to this week's episode. Last month, I had the opportunity and privilege to speak at a national business event. And right at the end of my talk on stage, in front of 500 business owners, I opened the floor up to questions. And the first question that were posed to me actually knocked me sideways and really put me outside my comfort zone. And the question was a simple question, but it just got to me. And the question was, Craig, you've been in business for over 30 years. What is your number one regret? And at first, when they said it, my response were going to be, blimey, how long do you want? How long have we got on stage? And how long's the list going to be? But actually, I paused and calmed myself. And I'm looking across the stage at 500 people staring at me, waiting for this answer. And you know what? Deep down, I know what my biggest regret has been in business. And that is the amount of wasted time and the amount of time that I have sacrificed on this pursuit of growing my business and becoming successful. And I look back and I look at the time and the memories that I've missed out on over all them decades. That is my biggest regret. So I'm stood on stage with 500 people staring at me. And honestly, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I started sharing this and I started getting emotional. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, Craig, pull yourself together, man. You can't start blubbering on stage in front of 500 people. But I could feel myself welling up inside. And I just said it like it was on stage. And everybody went quiet because I just let it all out. And I just said it exactly how it were and exactly how I felt in that moment. Because deep down, I know that I have wasted so much time. And you could hear a pin drop in this room. And then by the time I'd gone through it and I'm choking back tears trying to keep it all in, I shared it. And I actually got a standing ovation from a flipping question that had been thrown at me at the end of this talk. They weren't even bothered about my talk. They were more bothered about what I'd shared on stage. But I think the reason being is I was being raw, I was being authentic, and I was being real. So as we are now coming into another holiday season, and if you are listening to this right now live on the day it's gone live, which is Wednesday, the 24th of December, you will now know that it's Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Now listen, if you're listening to this episode and it's in the summer because it's been out 6 months, don't switch off, because this is not about Christmas Eve. This is about you being present and you dedicating the time that you need for yourself and your family, but not just at Christmas time. I'm talking about all year through. And what I shared on stage, which weren't rehearsed, it just came out, are things like this. Looking back when my 2 eldest children were kids, whether that be at primary school or infant or primary school, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I took my kids to school. Yet they're in education for over a decade. But I can count on one hand how many times I took them to school. The times where I'd missed the sports day or the nativity play at Christmas as the time it is now. Because I was always working. I got a job to finish. There was the next job to start. Working weekends and sacrificing that quality time that I should have been spending with my family or on me at weekends that I never did in pursuit of growing this business. The family days out that I've missed when my wife and my kids have gone out with family and friends and I've been stuck at work working weekends. The evenings where I've been doing my paperwork and my bookkeeping and my accounts and my invoicing and my pricing till 9, 10, 11, midnight and having to ring my dad up saying, Dad, I can't come to match with you tonight because I'm doing all my pricing. And I could hear the disappointment in my dad's voice on the other end of the phone. The hobbies that I used to have. Before I started a business, I used to have hobbies. I used to play football on a Sunday. I used to be in a 5-a-side team. I used to be fit and active and I used to go to the gym all the time. But all that lot fell by the wayside when I started running a business. Why? Because I just didn't have time to go on it. And even this one, even to the point where we'd booked a holiday to go away to Lanzarote. And 2 days before we're due to go, I turn around to my family and tell them, I can't go. They're like, what do you mean you can't go? I'm like, I can't go. I've got that much work on. And back in them days, if I'd have gone on holiday for a week, never mind 2 weeks, but if I'd have gone on holiday for a week, what an absolute shit show I'd have come back to and stress. So I've even left my family at home. Sorry, I've stayed at home while my family have gone on holiday. And I look back now, and I'm 55 years old now. And I know this might sound a little bit morbid, and it don't mean to be this time of year. But I'm 55 years old now, and I'm thinking, Craig, you might have got 30 years left in you, and then you're gone. So my time for me right now is incredibly valuable. But it was the same value when I was in my 20s, 30s and 40s. It's just that I didn't value time because I thought I'd got loads of time left. But as we know, time creeps up on us. And before we know it, we're looking back and we're now regretting, or I'm regretting all the time that I wasted on trying to build these businesses that I've now got. And I look back and I say, would I give everything up now to go back in time and take my kids to school and be at their sports day and not work weekends and good at match with my dad? Yes, I would. So the purpose of what I'm saying here is time is more valuable than money. And you know this, time is the most valuable currency that any person on the planet has. Yet so many of us do not value time enough. And therefore, you're doing what I used to do, which is trading time for money. And what I'm here to say, not just as a businessman, but as somebody experienced in life, you cannot afford to waste an hour of your time, because you will get to a point in your life where I was on stage in front of 500 strangers, bubbling up on stage, regretting and telling 500 strangers that I regret the time that I've wasted in my life. And at the time I'm recording this episode, I'm guessing that the vast majority of people that are listening to this episode around this time are now having a week or a good 2 weeks off over the Christmas period and festival. And you've dedicated and you've blocked out that time, and you block it out every single year without fail. You block that week or 2 weeks off where you're having it off over Christmas. No matter what happens, you're doing it. So if we can do it for a week or 2 weeks every year at the back end of December, why can't we do it every day, every week, or every month throughout the year? What's the difference? The difference is you are valuing your time now at Christmas more than you're valuing your time throughout the year. And what I want to do on this episode is get you to flip that and think, do you know what? Just because it's Christmas doesn't mean to say that I can't have time off or invest time into me or my family for the other 50 weeks of the year, because we can. It's just that you're not prioritising that time and you're not choosing to invest the time on you, your family and your loved ones and your memories. What you're doing is the mistake I made, which is you're constantly putting your business before your family and before you. And that is when you start trading time for money. And as of now, all that is going to change. So grab your notepads, grab your pens and tablets. You know how I roll. I ask you to make notes and take massive action on what you're going to learn in this episode. I'm sure you've all heard of a phrase called work-life balance. And many people are trying to achieve that work-life balance. But let me just stop you in your tracks there. Because whoever came up with that phrase, work-life balance, right, wants shooting, right? Because there's no such thing as a work-life balance. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for me. It doesn't exist for you. And it doesn't exist for anyone else. What does exist, and what I want you to replace the work-life balance with, is my phrase. And that is, we have a work-life choice. Let me say it again. It's a work-life choice. And what I mean by a work-life choice is this. Nobody held a gun to my head and said to me, Craig, you've got to work all day today and not take your kids to school and not show up at their sports day. Nobody held a gun to my head. I chose to put the business before the school activities. Nobody held a gun to my head and told me to work till midnight doing my paperwork, quotes and invoices, and have to ring me dad up, telling me, Dad, I can't go to Bramall Lane to watch Sheffield United with you tonight, Dad, because I'm working. Nobody put a gun to my head. I chose to do that. I chose where my time was going to be spent. Nobody held a gun to my head and said, you can't go to Lanzarote without your family. I chose to stay at home and put my business and my time before my family. Do you get what I'm saying? So nobody's holding a gun to your head and telling you to run your business and invest your time into certain areas. You're choosing. You choose to invest your time. Nobody's holding that gun to your head. And this is the point that I'm trying to make. Everything we do, we have a choice of with our time. Now, did you know that we have only got 168 hours in a week? That's what I've got. That's what you've got. You've got no more than me. You've got no less than me. We've all got the same amount of time. So what we do and where we invest the time within that 168 hours, I now make sure that I prioritise me. I make sure that I prioritise my health and well-being. I make sure I prioritise my family. I make sure I prioritise all my hobbies and things that excite me and that are fun things for me. That always comes before anything to do with my businesses, because no longer am I going to hold a gun to my own head and trade my time for money and give up on all the sacrifices and all the things that make me happy and I should be doing in pursuit of growing these businesses. Do you get what I'm saying? And if you're running a business, I know for sure that you've sacrificed and are sacrificing things that you shouldn't be doing in pursuit of growing your business. Now, listen, I'm not here to say to you that you don't put the graft in. In them early years, of course, you've got to put the graft in. You can't just wave a magic wand and have a perfect business. But what I'm saying here at this point, I've been running and growing my business for 15 years and I'm still sacrificing my fucking time for money. Do you get what I'm saying? And the reason for that was I'd programmed and conditioned myself to work, act and behave that way. And when you do things repeatedly for a given period of time, then guess what? It becomes a habit. So what I'd done without knowing, I'd picked up bad habits and they were conditioned into me. So it were conditioned into me to get my laptop out and start working till 10 o'clock at night doing my quotes. Why? Because that's become the norm. I'd conditioned myself to work a Saturday shift or a Saturday morning. Why? Because I conditioned myself to do it. And the minute I started to want to change this, guess what kicked in? Guilt. Have you ever had that feeling of guilt where you're having a bit of time away from your own business? Never mind anyone else's. This is your business. And it was the same with me. It's my business and I'm wanting to take a bit of time out for whatever, but then I'm feeling guilty on myself for not working. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, while I'm doing this, I might as well not do that and go and do something important like get some invoices out or get some quotes out. Do you get what I'm saying? And I bet you feel exactly the same as how I did. And if you're nodding your head now saying, Craig, that's me. I do sacrifice too much. I have given up on my hobbies. I do trade my time for money. I do have to put a Saturday shift in. I am working late evenings and I do feel a little bit guilty when I want to have time off because I'm thinking, well, I could be using this time to work on the business. Then unfortunately, you fell into that trap that I fell into and the vast majority of business owners are sat in. So the question then becomes, well, how do we get out of that bad habit? And what do we do to start to get more of a work-life choice? And what did you do, Craig, to change your circumstances? Because now you've got 4 businesses, they run like clockwork, you make money, you've got loads of time. How can you run 4 businesses and still have time left at the end of the week when I'm only running 1 business and I'm working 90 hours a week in that one? And when I started having business coaching myself 19 years ago, my coach said to me, Craig, the reason why this is happening is because you haven't set preservation goals. And I'm sat there 19 years ago going, what the fuck's a preservation goal? I've never even heard of it. What is one? So let me first of all explain to you what I mean by a preservation goal. This is a goal that you are going to set yourself, and under no circumstances whatsoever are you going to sacrifice that particular goal and the time that you've assigned to that goal in pursuit of growing your business. Because your business is not the most important thing. Yes, it's your baby. Yes, you're growing it. And yes, you think that this business is going to give you everything that you need in life. But let me tell you now, the number one thing that we are all craving, when you strip it all back, the number one thing that every human being on the planet is craving is one word, and that one word is happiness. Write it down. Happiness. You see, I used to think working 90 hours a week would build me a business that gave me loads of money. And when I get loads of money, I can then spend it and invest it on things that are going to make me happy. Well, let me tell you now, that's not always the case. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that having money doesn't take pressure off you, because it does. And when you've got no financial pressure and you can do what you want when you want, that is a great feeling. But listen, I've got everything that a man could wish for. I've got an incredible wife. I've got four incredible kids. I've got three incredible grandkids. I've got businesses. I've got a nice car. I've got a nice house. I've got investments. I've got money in the bank. I don't want for anything. But ultimately, underneath all that, there's still more to come from me. That's not made me 100% happy. What's making me 100% happy is spending time with my grandkids, spending time making memories, spending time with my daughters who are in the teens, who usually at that age don't want to be associated with the dad because it's embarrassing dad. My kids love me. They want to spend time with me. All this is what's making me happy, but that doesn't take money. All my kids want is time. All my grandkids want is time. Time with me. That doesn't cost anything. Do you get what I'm saying? So a preservation goal is where you're going to look at your time and you're going to go, right, every day, every week, every month, I'm going to invest my time into doing something that's going to make me happy. And under no circumstances am I going to put my business before my preservation goal. Because if you set a preservation goal and then you cancel that to go and invest time into your business, basically you're now trading your time for money. And we've got to move away from that. So when all this were explained to me 19 years ago by my coach, I'm like, right, I get it. I understand it. And when I looked at it, I'm thinking, right, I'm spending, 70, 80, some weeks, 90 hours a week working in my business. But then when I looked at how many hours I were actually spending on me and doing what I wanted and what made me happy, like my hobbies, like my football, like going at match, like taking my kids to school, like going on holiday, like going at gym, the things that I knew I should be doing that made me happy, I looked at that and I might be spending 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week doing that. And then all the rest of my time were being spent in my business, flogging my bollocks off to try and grow this business. That's wrong. That is not going to make you happy. And for anybody who thinks, yeah, but if I keep doing this for X amount of years and I get the money, it's going to make me happy. Listen, it's going to take you more than X amount of years, particularly if you're winging it and you ain't got a business plan, you ain't got a marketing strategy, you don't understand the numbers in your business, you've not systemized your business, you've not delegated to a high motivated team. If you've not got any of that in place, you're going to end up doing what I did, 15 years into your journey, still flogging your bollocks off, still skint and still being unhappy. So where all this starts is with you making a conscious decision now to say enough's enough. Now, if you're listening to this episode over this Christmas period, you're going to have some downtime to maybe give this some thought and take action on it. If you're listening to this podcast and it's 6 months after it's been released, it's still the same. You still need to set yourself some time aside to go and sit down and think about what these preservation goals are going to be and how you're going to introduce them into your business and into your life. So now we understand what a preservation goal is. What I want you to do is very simple. I want you to lock yourself away in a quiet room with no distractions. Switch your phone off, switch all notifications off, and just give yourself a little bit of headspace and a little bit of breathing space. Then what I want you to do, I want you to write down 10 preservation goals that you're going to introduce into your life. And again, under no circumstances are you going to backtrack on these. Once they're set, they're set. So what are the 10 things that you want to do? 10 things that you feel would make you happy. And we're going to set that as a preservation goal. Now, let me share this with you. Having done this now with thousands of trades business owners, mainly on my inner circle, you're going to probably write 5 or 6 things down and then you're going to stop. And you're going to really struggle to come up with just 10 things that you want to do in your life that's going to make you happy. And when they get to this point, and I can see them on Zoom, and they're scratching their heads and they're looking up in the sky, and I said to them, I bet you've wrote about 5 or 6 down and now you're all stuck, aren't you? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, how sad is that? That we can't even think of just 10 things in our life that's going to make us happy. And the reason being is our business has consumed that time and squeezed all that happiness or most of that happiness and them ideas and thoughts out of us. So now we're left thinking, what are the other 4 or 5 things that I can write down here? Because I've got 5 down and I want to do that, but what about the other 5? And I think that's a sad reality of how many business owners have ended up becoming a slave to the business, that we can't even think of 10 things that we want to do that makes us happy. Now, let me just give you, I'm not going to give you all my 10 because a lot of these are personal, but let me just give you some of my preservation goals just to point you in the right direction of what I mean by a preservation goal. Me and my wife, Sarah, every single Wednesday evening, me and Sarah go out on our own without the kids. And years ago, when they were too young to leave, we had to arrange babysitters, but we didn't make that an excuse. We sorted that out. Now, as my kids are older, we don't need babysitters. They can look after themselves for 3 hours. Every Wednesday night, me and Sarah go out for a date night. Just me and Sarah. We don't talk shop. We don't talk business. We just go out for 3 hours. That's all. 3 hours in a week. You've got 168 hours in a week. All we want is 3 hours together. Away from the chaos of life and business, right? And family and kids and everything else. And what we do religiously, that goes into my default diary and has been there for years. Me and Sarah, date night every single Wednesday. And we'll go to the cinema, or we'll go for a meal, or in summer we'll just go for a walk into Peak District and maybe stop and have a bite to eat somewhere. That is just our preservation goal time. We've preserved that time for our relationship. Just 3 hours a week. And you know what? Years ago, we didn't used to do this. We're like passing ships in wind. But I'm telling you now, just having that 3 hours a week together, the difference that 3 hours has made to our relationship, as daft as it sounds, is epic. Honestly. Now listen, if you were to ever come to me and say, Craig, I've got a speaking gig on Wednesday evening, and I want you to come, and I'll pay you £1,000 to come and do a 45-minute online presentation, Craig, to my business community, which I get asked a lot for. You can sit in your own house and earn £1,000 for 45 minutes. What day is it? Wednesday evening. My default response is, thank you for the opportunity. I can't do it. Because that's my default diary, preservation goal, date night with my wife. And my time is more valuable and means more to me spending them 3 hours with my wife than earning £1,000 sat in my office where I sit every single day, staring at Zoom where I stare at every single day. I'm sorry, thanks for opportunity, but no. I put my wife and our time and the value of that before anything else. Now flip this to you. And all right, you might not have the same opportunity as me to go and speak at people's events because you're not in that line of business. But I bet you get people saying, can you come and look at a job on Wednesday night? Can you come and price this big job up? I've got this big job I want you to look at. Most people would go, I'll put the job in and I'll put my wife or husband or partner off. And that is when you start trading time for money. So that is one of my preservation goals. Another preservation goal of mine is my health and my well-being. Now, people know that I won't say I'm a fitness freak, but at 55-year-old, I'm in the fittest, most healthiest shape I've been in since being a teenager. I'm 55-year-old, I've got a six-pack. I eat well. I've stopped drinking alcohol. I've cut alcohol completely out. And if you want to listen to my podcast episode that I did a few weeks ago on quitting alcohol and the negative effects that has on you, your business and your mindset and the positivity and the focus that it brings by not drinking alcohol, go and listen to episode number 91. Episode number 91. I go to the gym 5 mornings a week. I've got a PT that keeps me accountable and has got me into this peak shape that I'm in. I'm eating healthier than ever before. I'm spending time looking after Craig Wilkinson because there is that many people relying on me, from my wife, my kids, my grandkids, my employees, my friends, my family, my community, my inner circle members, my growth club members. I've got a lot of responsibility. And therefore, if I'm not looking after myself and all these people need me and want to be part of my life or business, and I'm not looking after myself, how is that fair on everybody else? How is that fair on my family? How is that fair on you, my listeners of this podcast? It's not. I want to give you 100% commitment and dedication and passion and motivation. That's what I bring. But how could I do all that if I don't look after me? If I can't look after myself, how can I look after my family? So I have preservation goals set that under no circumstances am I not going to gym. Under no circumstances will ever I drink that poison alcohol ever again. Under no circumstances am I going to start eating shit and start clapping weight on and lose this six-pack. No way. It's a preservation goal. It's in and it's set. Another preservation goal of mine is my two youngest kids, who are now 19 and 14. My 19-year-old daughter, for the last 10 years, I've been there. She plays football, high standard. And therefore, I became their manager and coach of the football team. I took them over 10 years ago. And we've just finished last season, under 18s, and we stopped. And for those 10 years of running that football team, my commitment to my daughter and my girls in my team was every Tuesday night is training, and every Saturday morning we play a game. And under no circumstances am I going to let my team down. Listen, I'm a winner, right? I'm not happy finishing second place. I'm a winner. I'm a motivator. And I took this group of girls 10 years ago. They couldn't kick a football together between them. Some of them didn't have a pair of boots or a pair of shin pads all them years ago. And I took these girls from where they were then to now, last season, we've won the league. We went undefeated. We took them to Barcelona tournament in Spain and won that, right? Because the commitment of time that I have provided for them over this last 10 years, I could probably count on one hand how many training sessions I've missed in 10 years on a Tuesday night, and count on one hand how many games I've missed on a Saturday morning. So if anybody ever came to me and said, can you do this on a Tuesday night? The answer is, no, I'm sorry. It's my football training. But listen, no buts. My preservation goal is to my team, not to you or anybody else. Well, can you do it Saturday morning? No. Why? Because that's when my girls play the games. That's match day. I'm not giving up my time and letting my team down and saying to my girls, I can't come training on Tuesday. Training's cancelled. Why? Well, I've got a job that I've booked in and I'm putting that job before you girls. How would that make them feel? Or if I didn't come to the games on a Saturday morning and motivate them, how would we win the league and go undefeated if I didn't turn up at them games? So under no circumstances would I ever give up that time with my team. I'll give you one more. And my other preservation goal is my morning routine and my morning ritual that I have. And I've had this now for best part of 19 years. My morning routine is what keeps me top of my game, keeps me focused, but keeps me sane at the same time. So my morning routine is like this. I get up in the morning anytime between 4 a.m. and 4:15 a.m. every morning, 7 days a week. I do not need an alarm clock to get me out of bed. My goals, my why, my passion, my drive, my determination gets me out of bed in the morning. So I get up early in the morning. I do my affirmations. I do 10 minutes of meditation through an app that I'll recommend called headspace.com. And I also complete a gratitude journal. And that, what I call my golden hour, takes me an hour in the morning. So from 4:15 to 5:15 is my golden hour where I'm up before everybody else and I'm investing that time into me and my personal development. I'm then at the gym for 6 o'clock. I do an hour in the gym. I'm usually back home by 7:15. Fucking game time. Come on, let's have it. I'm pumped up, I'm fired up, I'm motivated, I look after myself, I feel amazing, I've got energy levels through roof. What are you doing by 7:15 in the morning? How do you feel? How have you invested into yourself? So my preservation goal is my morning routine. There is nothing that's going to prevent me from doing that. Now, I'm only giving you a flavour of 4 of the things that I do. And I'm not saying that any of these 4 should be ours, because what I've just shared with you now might not make you happy. That might not float your boat. It works for me. It makes me happy. So I do more of it. And it's a preservation goal and nothing is going to stop me from doing it. But that's because I value the time and I've stopped trading time for money. And these dates and times are logged in my default diary. And when they're in there, nothing changes them. I will not swap out that time for anything else. So what I'd love you to do is find that bit of time where you're on your own. Lock yourself away, go for a drive, go for a walk, get some fresh air, put this podcast back on again while you're on your own and you're not distracted, and then give some serious thought to coming up with 10 preservation goals. Now, you might not get to 10. You might say, Craig, I'm stopping at 6, and if I can implement these into my life, that in itself is going to make me happy. Okay, if it's 6, it's 6. I'd encourage you to push for 10 to expand your imagination with it. But if it's 6, it's 6. But then what I want you to do is once you've written down and you understand what those preservation goals are, your next step is to go to your default diary. Your default diary, which is basically your diary, which should be online in today's day and age. Maybe it's a Google diary. Maybe it's a ServiceMate diary. Maybe it's an Outlook diary or an Apple diary or a Leadzilla diary. It doesn't matter. But what I want you to do is go and put that time into your default diary. So whether it's a weekly, or let me rewind, whether it's a daily preservation goal, like me and my morning routine is daily. It might be a weekly preservation goal, like, again, me is my date night. It's weekly. I've got monthly preservation goals. So I'm not saying you've got to do these every day. What I'm saying is work out how often this is going to happen for each of the goals. Go into your diary and go and block that time out now. Put it in your diary. Now, with my default diary, anything to do with my preservation goals or personal stuff, I highlight as yellow. So when I flick my diary on, my diary is colour-coded. I've got red, I've got blue, I've got purple, I've got orange, I've got green, and I've got yellow, right? I know that when I flick my diary on, whether that's on my phone, my iPad, or my laptop, I can see straight away the yellow things are my preservation goals and nothing's going to change it. So the second thing you're going to do is go and put the time into your default diary and set the time and lock it in. Now, if you want to know how to create a default diary to get super organized and become unbelievably productive and efficient in business and life, go and check out episode number 4. Because in episode number 4, I teach you how to set up and what are the type of things that need adding into a default diary. It's all in episode number 4. Now, the third thing that you're going to do with your preservation goal is you're going to look at however many you've written down. And let's say for this example, we're saying 6. What I don't want you to do is go and start to do all 6 tomorrow or next week. Because remember, you've picked up bad habits where you're wasting your time. And if you decide now to go and try and do all 6 preservation goals over the course of this next week or month, the likelihood is you haven't got time yet to do it all. And the guilt, remember when I was talking about the guilt? The guilt is going to kick in. And then all of a sudden, you're now associating your preservation goal with guilt, which is the wrong emotional feeling to have. We want to make sure that that preservation goal feeling is a happy feeling, not a feeling of guilt that you're not working. So what I want you to do is just pick maybe 2 things out of the 6 in this example and start them immediately. And then once you've started implementing them on a regular basis, that could be weekly, monthly, fortnightly, whatever that means to you. But once it becomes a default and you're not feeling guilty by taking time out to do what makes you happy, once you've got that feeling of happiness and it's a default, then and only then will you bolt another one of the 6 on. And then you'll be running 3 preservation goals and you might run that for another month. And when that becomes the norm and that makes you happy and the guilt's gone, you bolt another one and then it'll be the 4th. Are you with me? And this is what I did. And it took me a full year to get through my first X amount of preservation goals 19 years ago. But some of those preservation goals I set 19 years ago are still with me today and I don't miss. Some I've decided I don't want to do that anymore, so I've replaced that preservation goal time with a new preservation goal. Do you get me? So I'm not saying when these are set, they're set forever. Remember, you've got a choice of what you do with your time. So if you want to swap out your preservation goal for another one at any time in the future, you can do that. But what you cannot do is swap that preservation goal time out for something to do with your business. You work enough hours in your business already, right? We need to start focusing on you, your family, your loved ones, and the things that make you happy. Now, remember what I said earlier in this episode. I said that traditionally, most people over the Christmas festival and period will set a week or maybe 2 weeks off where they're not working, right? So you're already doing this once a year. What I'm saying is, why are you only doing this once a year? Why can't we do this for a small portion of time each day, each week, each month, each quarter? It's doable because you're doing it. But the reason why you do it over Christmas is 1, it's a routine. 2, it makes you happy. And 3, you're generally spending time doing what you want to do with the people that you want to hang around with. All that means happiness. All we've got to do is have the same mindset to be able to say, right, I'm going to do that once a week for a date night. And you block it in and it's the exact same as the time that you're blocking out for Christmas. There's no difference. It's just that right now, you enjoy the time off over Christmas. You value that time off. So therefore, you don't book anything else in. I just want you to do more of that throughout the year. So here's what I'd love you to do from this episode. I'd love you to either come into our Facebook group and community, or if you're a Growth Club member, come into our Growth Club community in our school platform and tell me that you've listened to episode number 95. And if you're happy to share a couple of those preservation goals that you've set, share the goals, tell us when you're going to start them, tag me in, and then I'll come back onto that post and I'll respond back to it. But let's see people taking action. I want to see you taking action and telling us that you're implementing what you're learning on these episodes. Now, if you're not a member of our free Trades Freedom Club Facebook group or our Growth Club, the links to join the Facebook group and the Growth Club are in the description of this episode. And finally, if I can ask you to hit that follow or subscribe button again so you never miss another episode and it helps our algorithm, I'd sincerely appreciate it. And remember, you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. I'll catch up with you on next week's episode and I'll meet you at the top. Thank you.